What is the dopamine drip? I need you to pay attention here because what I'm about to talk about is pretty niche, and if you don't check it, wallahi, it could sneak up on you and ruin your progress. Now, I'm gonna say something that's kind of extreme here, but I need you to just hear me out. You know how sometimes when you're brushing your teeth or you're taking out the garbage, and you have some sort of podcast or nasheed or something like that playing in your ear, or you got a YouTube video playing in the background, or whatever, while you're doing some menial task? This is actually one of the most dangerous things that you can do to your motivation, to your discipline. I know it sounds crazy. Before that, I need to explain just a little concept about how your heart can harden and how it relates to this specific activity. When your heart becomes dead, it becomes enveloped in a layer of black darkness. It's the same from a dead person that can't benefit from anything or ward off any evil. So why am I telling you this? The reason is because you might not know how much dopamine you are drip feeding yourself, which leads to that darkened heart. Now, this world is designed to be as stimulating as possible. There is entertainment everywhere. Everywhere you look, we have Netflix, podcasts, music, video games, and these are just the biggest ones. There are hundreds of vices that people have, and if you indulge in these things, even if they're halal, if there is some sort of excess, you are lowering your dopamine reserves and your motivation reserves. That is what the dopamine drip is. Salah becomes harder. Reading Quran becomes harder. Remembering Allah becomes something that you're doing less often naturally. And we have so many verses talking about desire and heedless pleasure. The Quran says, and they rejoice over the life of this world, that the life of this world with respect to the hereafter is nothing but temporary, paltry amusement. We hear so many verses talking about how the desires of this world are distractions, and we hear it, but do we implement it? Now, I know what you must be thinking, oh, this is too far, you're asking us not to have fun, you're asking us not to, do things that we enjoy. No. What I'm mainly talking about is excess, even in the small things, right? When we think of excess, we think of this grandiose thing of debauchery, of, partying and drinking and women. It doesn't have to always be that. What if you indulge in excess in what is halal? Imagine you do that. This can affect you still. That is also excess. I don't even know what to call it. Micro excess versus macro excess. Macro excess being drinking, partying, drugs, all this stuff. Obvious excess. What about the less obvious excess? What if you're taking out the trash and you have to have something in your ear? Or you're eating and you have to have a YouTube video playing? What do you think that's doing to your brain? Is it haram? No, it's not haram. But how questionable is that when it makes you worship Allah less focused, when it makes your salah worse, when it makes you think about Allah less? What does that say about that activity? And this is proven scientifically already. This is just proven. When you're constantly drip feeding yourself pleasure, even if it's halal and even if it's not massive pleasure all the time, your dopamine baseline drops. And it becomes harder for you to enjoy these slower, more deliberate actions that are still rewarding, like salah, reading Quran. All these things that benefit us so much become so much harder just because you're watching a YouTube video while you eat. You're listening to a podcast while you're brushing your teeth. You see how sneaky this is? And I remember a famous Instagram Muslim influencer talked about this, Halal Muaz. He said it perfectly in 60 seconds. In less than 60 seconds.
You're not a bad Muslim, you're just overstimulated. Just like it was hard for me to sit down and read Quran, it was also really hard for me to sit down and edit a video or to sit down and study for an exam. And it got to a point where I couldn't do very normal things in life, like getting dressed or washing my face, without having like a YouTube video playing in the background. And naturally, when your brain is used to having so much stimulus, then the more normal, mundane things in life actually become really hard.
And you could find other hadith where the Prophet ﷺ said and talked about these permissible pleasures in excess leading to the hardening of the heart. That's what's happening here. Our hearts are hardening because we're always stimulating ourselves. Abu Hurairah reported that the Prophet ﷺ said, "Do not laugh a lot. Much laughter kills the heart." Is laughing haram? No. But what happens when you're constantly drip feeding yourself? Oh my God, this is hilarious. Oh my God, ha 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 ha. Your heart is becoming dead. So what is the solution? Now, obviously, you might just think, okay, I just gotta cut it off. I just gotta cut it off. What is a prophetic solution? Did the Prophet ﷺ actually tell us how to get through this? Yes. The answer is silence. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, you must have good character and observe long periods of silence. And in another hadith, he says, observe long silence, for it drives away shaitan and helps you in your religion. And the Prophet ﷺ said these things, and he practiced what he preached. The companions reported that he would observe silence for long periods of time and would laugh little. Sufyan al-Thawri, one of the tabi'in, said that observing long periods of silence is the key to worship. So let me ask you, would you be more focused in your salah if your brain was constantly seeking this stimulation? Constantly seeking distraction from its current task. What are you doing when you're brushing your teeth and you put a podcast on? You're trying to distract yourself from brushing your teeth because brushing your teeth is boring. Eating by itself is now boring to you, so you have to amp it up. You have to plug a podcast in. Why would you be focused on Quran if you can't even brush your teeth without a podcast or a YouTube video? Why? There's no way. I hope this just unlocked something for you, because when I realized it, it made me have a complete epiphany. Why do I expect to be so good at these things if I can't even do this without some sort of M&Ms being drip feeded into my mouth? If I can't go 2 seconds without grabbing my phone to check the notifications just for that dopamine spike? Could this be what the Prophet ﷺ was talking about? Ibn al-Qayyim said that in the hearts are disorders that cannot be remedied but by responding to Allah, and it is a desolate feeling that cannot be removed except by intimacy with Him and solitude. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, eat and drink, but do not be excessive. Indeed, He does not love the extravagant. And the meaning of this verse from classical scholarly interpretation is that this applies to excess as a whole, in general. And having something constantly in your ear is excessive. So this was just a short reminder, and to you and to myself especially, to stop with the indulgence of these dopamine trips. No one is talking about this stuff, and I feel like it needs to be said. And I feel like the best example to follow these principles of reducing stimulation and living an ascetic life is the Sahaba themselves. They essentially dedicated their lives to worshiping Allah. Now, of course they had fun. Of course they did fun things with their companions. So if you want to live like the Sahaba and become the most disciplined version of yourself, there's a course linked in the description that teaches you how to do exactly that. To become the most disciplined Muslim man that you could be by living like them, inshallah. I truly think it's going to change the trajectory of your life. I say it in every video. Regardless, thank you so much for watching. JZAK khair. Ma'as salama.